Lindsay.
Okay, so I want to start talking about academic freedom for students on the other side of the country, so at the University of British Columbia, UBC. And something they're doing right now is they're coming up with a statement on freedom of expression, and they're going to institute this statement. And it makes sense to do this because Canadian campus culture has kind of become synonymous with platforming, stifling debate, silencing discussion. So it makes sense to institute something like this. So when they put out their draft statement, they allowed for feedback, and there's actually over 100 comments online that you can read. And I went through over 100 of them, and it's really mixed reviews. And so here's the most contentious phrase. I'll read it for you. One person's freedom of expression cannot be allowed to trample the freedom and well-being of others. So the issue that people took up with this is well-being. It's such a subjective, contentious term, right? It could mean anything. And so why it matters is, so there's a professor at Wilfrid Laurier University named David Haskell, and he has come up with the term linguistic imperialism. And what this means is that, so when you have a certain segment of society that it leans politically and ideologically one way, they're trying to redefine words in a way that suits their worldview and it conveys their worldview. So if we think of words such as mentally harmed, psychologically disturbed, unsafe space, trauma, violence, they're trying to loosen the definition so much that the power is taken away from these words. And so another way this is relevant, so as I said, I went through over 100 of the comments in response to UBC's draft statement. And there's one in particular that stood out to me, and I'll read this for you as well. The pro-life group that was set up outside the Nest for a week, and the Nest is the student commons at UBC, should absolutely not be allowed to do so. I felt uncomfortable and scared to go to school for a week as a result. Students should never, capital letters, never, feel unsafe at their own place of education. So it's loaded with an educational philosophy, sure, but what stood out to me was this person is scared to go to school for a week simply because of a pro-life display. And I'm not a psychologist, obviously, but as a human being and with experience interacting with other human beings, it's not a normal response, right? And so Jonathan Haidt from the Heterodox Academy, he kind of says that in 2015 there was a coalescing of many factors that led to this kind of campus culture. So it's a victimhood culture, it's a virtue signaling culture, changes in parenting, it led to less independent youth, as well as a kind of political and ideological monoculture of left-leaning faculty on campuses. So the reason why I care about UBC's statement is because my university, Wilfrid Laurier, is going to come out with a similar kind of project. So, and of course this was inspired by the events that transpired between me and the university. So I was accused of being transphobic under the gendered and sexual violence policy for having a discussion about gender pronouns. Okay, and so we need to think about the hierarchy of policies. So let's say Laurier made a statement thank you. Laurier made a statement that endorsed maximum freedom of expression, okay? And let's say this was instituted when I showed the clip that I did in my class. Well, at the same time, we still have the gendered and sexual violence policy. So, which one would come first? Even if you say that an objectionable idea cannot be silenced, if you still have a gendered and sexual violence policy, would I still be accused under it? And so what I'm getting at here is something like sexual politics can become pro-censorship, right? And this manifests in another way as well. So also at Laurier, Danielle Robitaille, who is a lawyer who defended Gian Gomeshi in the sexual assault lawsuit, she was invited by Laurier's Criminology Students Association to come speak. But there was an advocacy group, I think it was something about Students for a Culture of Consent on campus, and they petitioned for her to not come. And so she ended up not coming. They were successful in objecting to her presence because her presence would be too triggering. So again, what I'm getting at here is academic freedom for students. Even if you have a statement of freedom of expression, it might not mean anything if the pro-censorship policies are hidden within other legal frameworks and in other regulations. So that's what we need to look out for.